I saw that August is like the best part of summer or the vacation of summer. It was on Janice Ian's Facebook. I mean, of all the things, Janice Ian, I used to listen to her music all the time. And I have to tell you that I love August. I love fall. I love fall. And always right now, and actually it happened, I'm going to say July 29th. I went outside and I said to John, fall's here. There's something the way the light changes and the shadows. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying, but I absolutely love it. All right. What we're going to talk about is batting, and I got some other stuff before we do that, but also basting. I didn't have that in my outline, so I want to hit those two things, and they kind of go together. So here is, I want to show you this. Rose sent this, and I'm ever so sad the picture wasn't larger, but that's fine. We all know what this is. We all made this quilt one way or another, and she got a third place ribbon for it. So I really appreciate that she sent it. And also, Rose, I appreciate that on the card you know the all about, you gave credit to where it came from, because what that ultimately does, it's not about my ego or anything, it's about sharing the word of TQS. We need people to join TQS and be aware, and it always amazes me when people aren't aware. All right. Oh, and I'm not going to say who. You're not in trouble. Bernina University this year, they came out with two new machines. They're designed with Kaffe Fassett's magic hand. And no sooner did it debut at BU than one of our employees, I'll let you guess who, said, I've just got to get this. This color is hers. And so I'm not going to tell you who, but the other thing I want to say is that where she got it, they don't have it in stock. And so I did call Bernina right before this, and the stores really should have this. I think it's a 4 something. Oh, I don't see. I can't blow it up. 475, I think. And what you need to know is that I still do have coupons, but I have to send it to you before you go and buy it. And so this person went to buy it and they didn't have it, but I had already sent her the coupon, so I'm like going, ugh. But then what this person is going to do is take the original order receipt, and then when she goes, okay, I've narrowed it down, when she goes to the store to pick it up, that's when the whole thing will be run through. And then and I just want you to know that if you've seen these and you are interested, they are beautiful machines, and Kaffe did a fabulous job. In fact, there's a video somewhere, if you Google Kaffe Fassett and Bernina, his contention was, how come sewing machines have to be white? And, you know, I can't point fingers at this person because I bought my 765 because it was rose gold. I just sat there and go, baby, you are so hot. You have to go home with me. All right. So here's another thing. Dale, who was the first presenter in Transform Your Quilting, you know, the 6-minute circle. I hope you guys are enjoying that. Anyways, I went to her, you know, she gave me all her her doctor friends' silk ties, and some of her husband's too, but they're like a pediatrician. They're crazy. They're wonderful. And she said, yeah, I've kind of gotten through my silks phase. So she had a silk quilt hanging in her house, and I asked if I could come see it. Sit down for this one, people. Sit down for this one. Silk tie quilt. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, holy Toledo, wow, kazam, just beautiful. And so I got an email from somebody, and they have purchased 250 silk ties. This person chose to throw it in the washing machine on gentle in a garment bag and then deconstruct them. I probably will deconstruct mine first, but I got to fiddle around with that. You know, we aren't going to be doing this for a little bit, so you have time to gather up these ties. And she started picking them apart. She found in the tip of the tie, some drugs. And I said, oh my gosh, I shouldn't laugh. She threw it away. And I thought, now what if one of us ended up with $100 extra because it was stuffed in the corner of a tie. She threw that whole one out. Oh, by the way, the coupon, speaking of $100, the coupon that if you decide to buy one of these machines, and I get it to you before, you get $100 rebate from Bernina, Chicago directly, a check that you can spend on whatever the heck you want. And how you get that is you go to ALEXANDRSN at Gmail. Okay, so I want to talk about this quilt behind me too. It's hand quilted. Oh, no, wait, before I move on from Dale. On her front porch, Dale lives a very colorful lifestyle. And her garden, besides her quilting, it could be equal, is her pride and joy. Her garden is like, oh, my mom would have loved it. It's very organic, and what you might find like in a garden in Door County, there's nothing trimmed about it. It's just a eye full of fabulous colors and all that. Ho ho, but look at what was on her front porch. Look at this chair. Can you believe it? It was, shoot, she told me what it was, but it was for an exhibit or a challenge or something. It ended up in a thrift store. Everybody got a plain Jane chair, and then they had to decorate it, and I can't oh shoot, I wish I could remember, but she saw this at a thrift store for like nothing, and so she brought it home on her front porch. That could fit in Freddie's house too, just saying. All right, just saying. I do want to say Barbara Black should be here today, but she says no. Hi, she's in Long Beach, and she's doing a couple presentations. What she's doing this afternoon, it's called the Open Studio. It's on the floor. This is, Quilt Sync at Long Beach, and I believe she said they have 4 simultaneous presentations going on, and you choose who you want to go to. It's free. What she did this morning, what she's doing right now is Wendy Williams' way of paper piecing that we did last year for our block of the month. This afternoon, she's doing at noon, if you happen to be there, a thing on time management. If I had a superpower, it would be to go like this and transport. Remember Samantha? However she did it. I want that as my superpower because I would be down at that, like that. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe we should do some sort of little series with her on that. And then tomorrow, from 12 to 2, Saturday, is she's doing a thing on different ways to miter borders to get super results. Now, a lot of TQS people have come up to her and have spoken to her and all that. And if you are a TQS person, you know how excellent she is at teaching. So if you're there tomorrow, you might want to swing by and say hi. And again, if you're there today, chances are you aren't watching this live. All right. So one other thing was Arlene sent me a bunch of lace and buttons and goodies from Florida. And I got it yesterday. It's a box just crammed full of stuff. And what's so cool is that she has like the antique ones segregated from not antique. And then like one thing was like, I wore this on a lace velvet dress for Christmas. I mean, just the treasure. So I thank you guys so much for being so kind to me. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to get started with batting. All right. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm trying to figure out how to make this interesting and followable. So, oh, there's my calendar. Boop. So let's just talk about, okay, let's just say this. There are a ton of battings out there, and I can really only speak to what I know and what I have used. I have not used bamboo. I cannot speak to that. I have not used silk, but I've heard it's absolutely wonderful. And again, we are talking hand quilting, okay? So let's start with the very first quilt I did had 100% cotton, and it still had the seeds in it. I mean, so I wanted it, the quilt was started in the 30s, and I wanted it to be indicative of what you might have, gotten at that time. So that's what I got for hand quilting. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. Now cotton has come a long way, and there's a whole lot that's so much better now. I mean, I would say that batting manufacturers have really come to terms with what we need as quilt makers. Oh, the other thing that's important to say before we get too far down here is that when you are hand quilting, you want to consider the loft. And the loft, of course, is the thickness. I think a lot of new quilters come to the game and they go, oh, I want a fluffy quilt to snuggle under. And so they'll get a high loft. It's called that. And I think typically it's polyester. Don't do that. Just don't do that. You want a low loft. I believe with hand quilting, you want it flat, all right? So first one I had, 100% cotton with seeds. Then I used Mountain Mist. This is polyester way back in the day, way back in the day. And I wanted it thin, so I split the bat, which means I literally took the top side and the bottom side and split it. I believe the typical Mountain Mist poly was 3 ounces. High Loft is like 6 ounces in thickness. And it was great to needle through. Absolutely fabulous for hand quilting. Now, I want to talk about the quilt behind me. This is hand quilted. There is no pattern for it, so don't ask me for it. There's none. But what happened was, I talked about this the other day. They're airplanes, all right? You can see airplanes here. So when I found this bomber fabric, these red with little black airplanes on it, it's like I had to have it, all right? But this has a very fine polyester bat in it, and the red comes through. And I kept thinking, oh, it's going to go away. It's going to go away. No, it didn't. It came through. So again, like I said the other day, I would never put a red backing on that ever, even though it was airplane bomber fabric, ever, okay? So I used that for quite a while. That's what I had access to. That's what the quilt shops sold. But the problem is that, or the situation is that quilts act differently if they have cotton batting versus they have polyester batting. I like to say that the cotton bats have a drape ability that the polyesters don't have. So, okay, I'm going to go back to cotton, but I'm traumatized over this particular situation right here. So I just kind of stuck with my polyester. Then somebody introduced me to wool. Again, hand quilting. Yep, that's what I would like to say about wool. And we at Quilters Select have wool. It is so easy to needle. It's so fine. And in fact, our wool at Quilter Select has 0 additives, so to speak. Okay. But then okay, I've got my poly in here. All right. So then let's go to 100% cotton nowadays, today, and 80-20. Okay, this is 80 cotton, 20 poly. Gosh, I hope I have that right. If I have that wrong, somebody put it on here. Okay, I'm going to get to black batting in a moment. And so the thing, cotton poly, just that much poly in that cotton makes it easier to be able to needle through it. All right. Now I like, again, I'm going to go back to the polyester for hand quilting. I'm just going to go back to it. But honestly, it's not, I mean, it's hard. I mean, this is kind of a Sophie's choice that we're talking about. The main thing you don't want to do is to go cheap on batting. And this can typically happen at a chain store where if it's say on a roll and there's perfectly good battings on the roll, Quilter Select has battings on a roll. I'm pretty sure um, I, it's fabulous if you know who the manufacturer is. But back in the day, you would go, say, to a large chain store and it would be on a roll and it'd have like a crispy edge to it that was just awful. And the loft was very inconsistent. So you don't want that. I hate to say that when you are hand quilting, this is not the time you want to go on a budget. All right? Now, somebody just brought up black. And I'm glad you did because I would have forgotten it. I did a black quilt with stars on it. It was in Quilts, 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 and there were yellow stars in there. And the reason I wanted the black quilt was that the background, I wanted black batting, okay, at polyester. And I believe Hobbs makes it. I don't know if they still do, but they did then. And I went to the store and I said, Carol Lee, how come you don't carry this? Black batting. And she said, because people would put it like under your star quilt. And then when yellow's on top, say the star is a yellow, the black will shade it down. And you don't want that. So if I put a black batting in this, it would just make the whole thing look dirty. So if you're going to use a black batting, think really hard about what you're putting it under. It would have to be a very extreme circumstance for me to do that. Another thing that happens is bearding. And bearding is when the fibers of the batting come up through the top of the quilt. Okay, so I'm going back to my black quilt with my little stars. I wanted the black batting because then if it bearded, it wouldn't be like these white fuzzes everywhere. So this is what I learned. And, I could be wrong on all of this, okay? So I just saw what Rodney put. I used to iron polyester batting to flatten it enough to hand quilt. It was awful. I was surprised it didn't melt all over the joint, Rodney, but yeah. Okay, what was I just saying? Uh-oh, I need somebody to help me. This never happens to any of you, I know. Well, while somebody tells me what I was saying, let me tell you one other thing. If the batting tells you to pre-wash it, I would pre-wash it, all right? I did it one time and I was scared to death over what would happen. And I did, and nothing happened. And what you're doing there is you're pre-shrinking the batting, so it like a cotton, so it doesn't. Could you say that again? Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. My phone. Thanks, Rondi. So no, I forgot. Help me! Help me! Yes, the density of stitches. That's no. Oh wait. Okay, so I threw it in the washing machine. It shrunk up. It was just great. Okay. The other thing, and thank you for saying this, Kathy, is that the density of quilting matters. On a polyester, you can get away with less, and on cottons, they'll have their rules. Read the directions. Okay, bearding. Polyester, bearding is the polyester, this is what somebody told me, I could be wrong, but I live with it, is a continuous fiber, and so when it comes out, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. Cotton will break, so you will have less bearding. Now, this is important when you're doing something, say, with black and stuff like that. Okay, moving on. So you have to look at what you're doing, what the use is going to be, etc. The other crazy thing is that wool is the most breathable. So if you're looking for a batting for a quilt on your bed, cotton's pretty darn hot, and I think polyester would be too because it doesn't breathe. So wool breathes beautifully. Read the instructions on the package. I mean, that is the bottom line, okay? So, all right, let's talk about piecing batting. This is pretty cool. In the olden days, which I don't know how old the olden days is, I mean, batting is not exactly cheap, right? And so let's say you've got some pieces that are left over and you want to put it together. Well, I would just cut a straight line. That's not very straight. Yeah, that's not very straight either. and whip stitch it like this, all right? But then what happens is you've got this continuous line here that is very weak. So I learned this on Simply Quilts. Overlap it about that much, and then go like this. Now you could rotary cut this, but I want to show you these really cool scissors that Quilters Select is now carrying. But let's finish this project first. So then you go like this. And then you go whip, 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 whip. And then you don't have this line. Now, again, I probably would have rotary cut this, but there are times you need to cut batting and you don't want to go through all 3 layers. Like once it's all been basted or whatever. And the cool thing about these scissors is that not only can they do batting, but they can also do very, very shears. What I like, I don't use giant scissors that often, but boy, when you need them, you need them. And what's so great is that you've got a smaller one, you're going cut, 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 cut. And this, you got a whole open thing. They're heavy. They're about 9 ounces, and our rotary cutter is about 8 ounces. So that will tell you the difference. All right, so let's talk about basting for hand quilting. I will tell you what I used to do and what I now do is I prepare the back, and I guess I'll draw it like this. Here's the backing. Okay. And you want the backing stretched pretty taut. So what I would do is I would T-pin the backing down, use a lot of them, go all the way across to here, come all the way down to here, and then go, and you're getting it tight, and then go all the way here, and then up here. And when you get in this area, you will probably have to repin and junk because there'll probably be a bubble or something. I would T-pin it into a non-loop carpet. In my sewing room, before I redid it, that's what I had in here, non-loop. And I could not walk for a week afterwards. Could not do it. Oh, wait, but let's say this. So then I put the batting on. Here's the batting. Yeah, I can still walk. It's the next part where I can't walk. There's the batting. And then I put the quilt top here. And then I will put in more T-pins. Now you're going to want to put them in less than a 1/4 inch, all right, in case it tears. And yes, I am crawling on this quilt. I am on top of it, and that's when I can't walk the next day. Okay, so you go around. Then what I would do is I would thread baste it. And I would start here, use a neutral colored thread, use a bigger needle, and I would go across this way, and I come down like this, and then I come up like this, and then I go this way and out and out. So how far is this, okay? If I was working on my dad's frame, I could do about every 6 inches. If I were doing on a hoop, I would probably do about 3 or 4 inches. If I'm working on a hoop, I would consider, I would, based on some fake fabric out here, not the batting, just on the top, based on some fabric, so that when you are quilting on a hoop, and you always start in the middle and work your way out, I'll probably go over this again with hoop before again, but I will based on extra fabric. And in that way, when my hoop gets to the edge, it's got something to catch so that you don't end up with this stretched. They used to have half hoops, and they were like this, and it had like a cloth on it. I don't know. All right. And then you could put this on the edge of your quilt. I didn't care for that very much at all. Now what I do Okay, you can also go to quilt shops and stuff, and they'll let you maybe push a couple tables together, put a couple of those bed risers that are for dorm rooms under it so you don't kill your back, and work on it there. But honestly, I take it to my long armor now. Diane Schweikert, who does 99% of my quilts, will put it on her frame and baste it, and it, costs me 20 bucks, 30 bucks, depending on the size of it. And then then I can still walk for 3 days. I'm not crawling around. It is so worth it. Okay, so the next question then, what about spray based? What about my powder that I love, Free Fuse, Quilter Select? I would not use either of those products. The less amount of product that you have in your quilt, the better off you are. So you're kind of hammered to have to do it the old-fashioned way, okay? Like I said, find a long armor. That is what I would do, and have her put it on a big giant stitch. Some people might even suggest to do water-soluble thread, and I don't think I would do that. I wouldn't do that. And then what I do is when I'm working on my frame or working on my hoop, I, quilt, and then I just pull it out as I go. If you're going to suffer through the old-fashioned way and get on your hands and knees and do it on the floor or a table, let me show you something else. I may have to, okay. So this is a really easy way. I hope you can see it. I believe so. To baste, because you can't get your hand underneath, right? So because it's all tacked down, tied down, whatever. And so what you do is you use a cheap spoon, and you rather than this hand like pushing down, you use the bowl of the spoon to click up the tip of the needle. And that works really good. Oh, I also see in here it says don't bother to knotting the end, because when it's time to remove the basting, you just pull it out. All right. So is there anything else here? No, I think that's pretty good. Again, don't use thread that is something that was from grandma's sewing box or like that, because my fear is that there would be excess ink that could very well migrate on it. Okay, let's go questions. Do I think it would work to use the basting stitch on the Q20? I don't know, Barbara. I don't know. Because I think for it to work, you'd have to somehow secure those 3 layers, and then in enters spray or my powder, and you don't want that stuff in it. I just say pay the 20 bucks or whatever it is. Okay, let me look. Okay. Also, well, we'll talk about frames the other day. Yeah, getting on the floor, basting a quilt, can't do that anymore. I know, man. Those were the good old days. Aerobics. Quilting's not for wimps. Okay. All right. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're super good. So, again, I love hand quilting. I love everything about it. Um, will the long armor just baste? Yeah, that's the point. She basted it. Well, mine did. I can't imagine somebody saying no. She basted it for me in between 2 quilts, that she was doing, and I'd say she basted like about that, and it was fabulous. I mean, fabulous, because it's all stretched out, it's all flat, everybody's happy. And again, I don't want to say, well, Alex paid blah, 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 but it was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. Okay, now let's talk about pinning. Okay, so okay, let me go back and make sure, Jackie, we're talking the same. No, that's Barbara. I would not pin when I'm hand quilting, all right? I did it once because I thought, well, this will be a lot faster. And of course it was. But then when you pass, the thread catches on the pins, the safety pins. So save that for something else like machine quilting. Hand quilting is a very, very different beast. I mean, we all know that, right? Okay. Yeah, Randy, I miss the Olden Lane show too. Yeah, I go to your long armor, but just use regular thread. And the reason I wouldn't use the water soluble is sometimes I want to go and I want to mark my quilt design, say with a water soluble pen, and I want it out immediately. That was before I had my purple one with Quilter Select. And I don't think I'd want all that thread to go away. I'd want to be able to get rid of that marking, so it's not on there for any extended length of time, but not compromise the threads. Do you recommend a beginner start with a very small project? Yes. Actually, for a beginner, I'll tell you what I would do. In this book, when I used to teach it, we'd all make this pillow, okay? Super easy, the pattern's in here. But the truth of the matter is, I wouldn't even bother with that. I would just put it on a hoop, get your 3 layers, you'll know what thimbles to look for and this and that as we go down there, and just do stitches. And I'll tell you a secret, it's easier to stitch on the bias than it is on the straight of grain. How about that? So just practice. Your first stitches are gonna stink, and I'm gonna show you how I do it. We're going through the whole process. They're gonna stink, and you just have to not worry about it and get over it, okay? My first stitches were 2 to the inch. 2 to the inch, okay? All right, all right. And it will take you, Trudy, hand quilting is a 4-letter word. Stop it. That's what I used to say about machine quilting. It took me 150 hours to go to machine quilting. Hand quilting, it took me half of a crib size quilt. And I can quilt with my thumb too. Oh my God, I love you people so much. Okay. So what are we doing what's today? Today's Friday. All right. Tom went up to the cabin to golf and it was pouring rain up there. But you can't begrudge any of that because we need it so badly. Anyways, on Monday, we're going to do needles and threads. We're going to talk about that, all right? Wednesday, I'm going to talk about marking tools and thimbles. Friday, I'm going to do a frame or a hoop and the difference and why I like what. And then on that Monday, we're going to do stitches. We're going to get busy, all right? Dee is tomorrow. She's doing her thing. If you've ever wanted to play with wool, you know how much I love it. And so she's working on part 2. Part 1 is there. She works with wool a little bit differently than how I work with wool. And that is just great. I think it's really important to submerge yourself in different people's techniques, and so you can figure out what works for you, all right? And that's one of the great things we're doing with this, the whole thing of, let's get our quilting tips and skills up. There's so many different ways to do things. Like Suzanne Marshall will quilt different than I. Lucia Newman quilts different than I. So you find the one that works for you. Okay, and Rose says, hand quilting, you love it or not? I love it. I'll tell you why I love it. I love it because it's like you've got this flat surface. And to me, this happens more hand quilting than machine quilting. It starts to just breathe life into it. Now, my machine quilting is more rigid, like straight lines, whereas my hand quilting are feathers and cables and all that. So maybe that's part of it. But there's something so flippin' meditative about the whole thing. I love handwork, obviously. That's what you guys always catch me doing in a dark corner. So if you are in Long Beach today, this afternoon, I know you aren't, go to Barbara Black. And if you happen to be there tomorrow, go to her thing from 12 to 2 on the floor. Just ask for Open Studio. She's just a plethora of information. Okay, we are good. Hand quilting each day keeps me from being mean to people. You know who else says handwork? Sue Smargo says, I just have to stitch so I know to keep me happy. Wool, like what Dee's doing. Wool. Okay, everybody, I'll see you on Monday. Have a great, great weekend. Bye-bye.